Right, let's do one last review session. People find the change from major to minor difficult. The minor is a little more complicated, but it's not so difficult. Let me show you what I mean. So I have here a C major scale, just like we had before, with our numbers, right? 1, 4, and 5 are major, 2, 3, and 6 minor, 7's diminished. Really nice function, really good. Well, now, if I'm going to do a minor scale, the relative minor, I just go down the same key signature, I go down a third. And what I end up with is I get the exact same chords, I've just shifted them over. So now instead of this chord, which is the same as this one, which was a 6, instead of being a 6, that's now my 1 chord. And then that's my 2 chord, used to be the 7. It's right there, I'm sorry, 7. And then the 1 chord is now a 3 chord because it's the third note of the minor scale. So basically you just add 2 to every number. 2 becomes 4, 3 becomes 5. And the majors are still majors, the minors are still minors, the diminished are still diminished. This is your natural minor scale. And we know exactly what's major and minor because we just add 2 to everything. So 1, 4, and 5 become what? 3, 6, and 7 become the majors. And the minors, again, add 2 to everything. But it turns out that we don't use this scale very much. And here's why. The 7 is now a major chord. So the major chord, it doesn't have a dissonant. It's got perfect fifth. It's got no desire to resolve. And that's not a leading tone. That G is, in this case, a G to an A is a whole step. No leading tones. There's no pull. There's no dissonance. There's no function. 7 chord ceases to function. There's no function at all. Even the dominant chord, while the bass is going to blow bum 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 bum, that we no longer have a leading tone here. It doesn't have any function. It's a very mild function. So composers, which are trying to write functional harmony, said, we got a problem. We have no dominant chord. We have no dominant function. We've got to change this. But it wasn't a problem for them because their scale was only 6 notes long. The 7th note was arbitrary. So they said, let's raise the 7th degree by half a step, create a leading tone. And so that's what they did. They created a scale we think of as harmonic minor because the scale was created to fix the harmony. And so we add that leading tone, and we can add it in 3 places. Now when we add it, look what happens. That perfect fifth shrinks. This becomes now a diminished chord, just like it was in major. It functions now like a dominant chord. Our dominant chord now becomes major, just like in major, and it will now function like a true dominant chord. We fix the function. The 3 chord can also be changed, but it becomes augmented, and we don't really know what to do with that. So usually they leave that sharp out and they leave 3 where it is, but they still will use a minor 5 when they don't care about function. But it's rare, and they will occasionally use a major 7, but basically they switch the 7 and the 5 to a major and a diminished instead of minor and major. Okay, gives us slightly different chords, but we understand why. We're just trying to create function, and they're exactly the same as major now. Well, then they had another problem. The F to G sharp is that augmented second that makes all this music sound like it comes out of a movie about Arabia. Not real Arabian music, but a movie about the Middle East. We'll all have this augmented second. It's just really terrible. And so people wanted to smooth out the melody. They said, let's make the scale so that instead of going E to F natural and then leaping to G sharp, we just make the F sharp also. Very smooth. Now, when we practice the scale, we do it sharp going up and natural going down because we don't care about the leading tone going down, so we get used to playing it both ways. But really, this is just whenever there's a G sharp, you put the F sharp into to smooth out the melody. That's why we call this melodic minor. The other is harmonic. It was to fix a harmony problem. So let's see what happens if we sharp these notes. So if we sharp the 6 changes from major to diminished. We may prefer this harmony. We may sometimes have to do that. But we come here, the 4 chord changes to major, which we kind of like, and the 2 chord changes to minor. So if you look at the harmony now, 1 is still minor. It's different from major and minor, but 2 is exactly the same between major and minor. 3 is still different, but 4 is now exactly the same. 5 is exactly the same. 6 is going to be different no matter how you do it, but 7 is the same. So now we have a lot of chords that are the same, which means that they have the same function. So when we set up that chart, we say there's a 1 chord, but it's a minor. It goes to a 6 chord, which could be that way, 6, or it could be this way. Then we go to, 3 chord. I skipped the 3, which is usually that, 3, 6. And then we have the subdominant chords, which is usually a 4 to 2, just like we do in major, although the 2 diminished does appear. And then we have a 5 and a 7, just like in major, although sometimes we do see the minor version of 5. It's the same progression. It functions the same way. So now we know exactly how to write a chord progression. We know the names of all the scale notes. We know which are major and minor, and we can convert from major to minor scales like that. Piece of cake. Review is over. Next time, we'll start the new stuff.